it's another warm welcome to the Women's Rugby Pod. I'm Johnnie Hammond. Alongside today is the England captain, Sarah Hunter. How are those ribs, Hunter?
Yeah, they're making good progress, thanks. Hopefully be able to lift a few weights today and start the progressions. But yeah, a lot better than they were.
Lifting weights or lifting boxes? Because you are truly a grown-up now, aren't you?
Yeah, that's it. Moved house this week into own house.
And it's called what?
It's called Rose Cottage.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah, of course it is. Just need some roses around the door then, I think now. But yeah, so heavy lifting hasn't been on the agenda. So I personally haven't been much help. I've moved a few cushions and a few lighter boxes, but yeah. So I've probably got the tidying job to do to make up for it.
So you're making copious amounts of cups of tea. That strength must be.
I'm not even doing that. I'm really rubbish.
Don't tell the viewer. She's different when she's in rugby situation, I can assure you.
Yeah.
Well, look, so as you know, a dramatic last round of the Premier 15s out the weekend. We're going to have a very quick look back at that. But we're going to look ahead to the semi-finals. We will have a new team in the final. No longer the cartel of Harlequins and Saracens. They will meet in the semi-final. 2 o'clock on Sunday from the StoneX Stadium. Do get your tickets to get down to that. 4:30 at Sandy Park. Exeter Chiefs take on Bristol. Again, do get your tickets down there. It promises to be a great game. If not, then both games are being broadcast on BT Sport, the BBC iPlayer and England.com. So we'll look ahead to those in the company of players from all. We can have Rachael Burford on as a guest and really grill her like Paxman-like. We're going to get Burf on. We've got Sarah McKenna, the England fullback. Of course, Saracens as well, to look forward to that semi-final. And then the second semi-final, Kate Zackery, who's been in sparkling form, the USA international and Exeter back rower. And Alisha Butchers, another lady who's enjoying a rich vein of form over the Six Nations for Wales, will be our Bristol representative. But so let's just take a quick look back at last week then. We'll get to your game at the end and we'll bring in Burf, I think. But let's just run through them. DMP unable to score against Gloucester Hartpury, 67 points. Confidence should have waited for Gloucester Hartpury to finish off the season. Mathematically, they were still in the hunt till late doors. But that's a good way to finish the season and pick up a pina colada with a decent win under the belt.
Yeah, it is. I think they would have wanted to go there, finish off. I think the result was probably a given beforehand, but some of the tries they scored, and I think how they went out there and played, and obviously the scoreline speaks for itself. To finish on what we spoke about was probably been a frustrating season for them, but I guess they ended up finishing fifth. So when they probably look at it in reflection, I think in terms of some of their results, probably about right for them. But yeah, I'm sure they'll use that result to kick on into pre-season when it comes about, and just what they want to set the stall out for next year.
It is a good moral boosting victory for them. What about the Saracens result against Wasps, 31-26?
Yeah, I think obviously for them, getting into winning ways ahead of the semi-final was probably pretty important. They obviously had that defeat down in Exeter, so they would have wanted to bounce back from that. I think perhaps it was a little bit tighter than people may have thought it was going to be. But yeah, they've obviously missing a few key people, but they had a few key people back. So I'm sure they'll take a lot into that and learn a lot from it moving into the semi-final, because it's the big old rivals back together for that big semi-final, as we'll talk about a bit later on.
Yeah, it certainly is. Take us through the Worcester game then, 51-26 against Sale. What kind of both about where you'd expect them to be? Both were sort of struggling to get over that white line early on in the season. So a decent amount of points scored by Sale. And Worcester, as we said, progressing really nicely. Lots of teams have different approaches to how they're putting their teams together, don't they? I think it's fair to say that Joe Yapp is very much using sort of local talent and young girls, relying heavily on the academy as this 3-year project sort of develops, and you can very much see their development through the season. And they affected who was in the top 4 last week, but that's a good victory for them.
Oh yeah, I think when they compare it to the start of the season, I think like that game was probably a lot tighter than the one on Saturday, and I think it shows a reflection of where Worcester have come, and Worcester maybe be sat there thinking our season's ended too soon, because they seem to be finding a rich vein of form and confidence and have started to gel and learn. And I guess a lot of those younger players that maybe hadn't had much Premiership experience have come through. I guess some of the internationals that Joe Yapp had brought in that hadn't played in the Premier 15s before are starting to find their feet, and then all of a sudden, like, the season's finished. But it should give them more confidence going into next season with what they've done, how far they've come in this season, and where they probably will want to kick on to next year. But Sale as well, like, in terms of the journey they've been on, it's been a difficult couple of years for them, but you can see obviously since Katie's come in what she's trying to do there and how she's trying to get them to play. And that result, while it's not a win for them, they've certainly got like a lot more points on the board than maybe they've had on earlier in the season. So they're finding ways to score, which is really important. And hopefully they can take that into next season and really build on it.
Exeter 29, Bristol 26. We're obviously going to talk about that semi-final coming up, a rerun of that game later on. So we'll just touch on that. How much of a boost is that back to back? It's a weird situation, isn't it, playing back to back? There's no aggregate either. Yeah,
really interesting for both teams. One's won, how do you back it up? One's lost, how do you turn that around? Does that give you a bit more of an edge going into a semi-final that you want to get one over on the team? I think Bristol were down to 2 players and the game got away, but then they came back and got back within it. It sounds like it would have been a great game to play in. Like, how much is it mentally and physically taken out of both sides? They'll know each other really well. There's some real good psychology around it, and like probably a really interesting experience for players playing in it. Like, I don't think I've ever played a team and then play them a week later in as big a game as what Saturday will all be about. 2 teams going for, in the existence of Premier 15s, their first semi-final, and one of them will get into a final. So yeah, it's you couldn't write it much better, I don't think.
No, it really is spiced up Sunday. Yeah,
Sunday. Yeah,
don't
Sunday.
Arrive a day early. But yeah, we're both involved in the production for various people at the weekend, which would be great fun. Your game back at something at Franklin's Gardens. So that's disrespectful to the sponsor. No doubt spent a lot of money. The Clinch Stadium, is it?
Cinch Stadium.
Cinch Stadium at Franklin's Gardens. Loughborough 22, Harlequins 17. And just as I say that, I think Rachael Burford is joining us, or Omar Hassanian.
Hi, guys.
The only reason I'm saying that, ladies and gentlemen, is because Rachael Burford is clearly logging in with a different name. So good morning, Omar.
Omar's my boss, and I've got work calls, and I'm using his account. So sorry about that. I'm back. There you go.
How are you, Burf? You're looking very well. Hair looks nice.
Thanks, Johnny. Glad you noticed. Yeah, he's learnt well over the years. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
Good, thanks, Bear.
She's finally done the move. She's in the new house.
Yeah, I'm actually back at the flat because we've got no Wi-Fi in the new house. So I'm back round here this morning.
So removals for Sunter. Yeah, all good. It's a good old week, isn't it? We were just discussing last weekend's results. I know you're stretched for time. It's a busy week. Seems like a Slightly edgy week, the Harlequins camp, but you can tell us all about that. We were just moving on to the result of the weekend. Last weekend, your 22-17 loss to Sarah Hunter's Loughborough Lightning side, which obviously sent you away for the semi-finals. Just take us through that game first, if you would, Burf.
Yeah, no, it was a really competitive end-to-end game. We were certainly kept on our toes a lot. But yeah, I think you got to credit Loughborough. They started really well and they finished really well. And we were just not out of the blocks like we needed to be against such a good team. And yeah, I think, when we scored our third try, it was brought to my attention that and with what was going on with Exeter and Bristol, that we were potentially on for a home semi. So, and obviously that then didn't happen in the end anyway, but then for us to kind of let it go in the end was really heartbreaking, because I think we'd kept Loughborough out so many occasions, so many brilliant line breaks, lots of pressure in our 22, and then for us to let it slip right at the end, or with not very long to go, I think it was 3 minutes left on the clock, was disappointing from our point of view. But in the same breath, we feel really lucky that we're in another week. We've got another week in the competition, and we just had to kind of change our focus to that.
So you must be very pleased with your charges to beat the reigning champions, and could be back-to-back champions still.
Yeah, I think we approached it with our last game of the season. I think had been, like I mentioned, we'd been disappointed with the result, and more importantly than performance from the Worcester game, and then just the consistency we've shown throughout the season. That we just wanted to go and finish with a bit of pride and a bit about what Loughborough's all about, because we've had some brilliant moments in the season that we just hadn't shown enough of. And I think so I think there was a lot about that. Obviously playing at Franklin's Gardens for the girls that hadn't played there was a real buzz. So I think there was a nice sunny day. Loughborough loved playing in the sun. So I think it just added to what was a great day of rugby. And like Burf said, it was, for the neutral, it was entertaining. We took the lead, they took the lead. It was close to the very end. And then Quins got back in it, and then are they going to score last minute? So I think for the general game, I think it was good. But from a personal point of view, I'm glad that, especially the girls that played, could finish on that win, because we didn't have anything else to play for after that. So it kind of left a good feeling about that day, and we'll reflect on the season as we move forward. But yeah, there was a lot of real good stuff from Quins, and as Burf says, they're in for another week, so you kind of put that game behind and switch focus straight away to the Saracens game.
Well, you're certainly playing your part, because off the back of what was an excellent Six Nations for lots of different reasons, it was going to be useful if there's some really, really good rugby, and boy, there's been some cracking rugby over the last couple of weekends. Let's move forward then, Rachael Burford. How exciting is it to shake it up a little bit, and the perennial finalists, the cartel, the Saracens and you Harlequins, are meeting semi-final rather than a final?
I know. I think it's great. It's obviously that there's going to be a new team in the final this year. That's guaranteed. I think that's brilliant for the league. There's always so much rivalry between us and Saracens, and yeah, we're really excited about playing them. We can't wait to go to StoneX and give it everything that we've got to get ourselves into another final.
Does your approach to the game change in any way from potentially other games this season, other games you played against Saracens in the past, knowing just the rivalry, some of the games that the two teams have been involved in, they've been absolute crackers. Does that change your approach to Sunday, or is it just focus semi-final any other game?
Yeah, I think we've spoken about it, and we said, although we know it's knockout rugby and that there's so much on the line, you can't go away too much from what you normally do. It is just another game. Yes, there are bigger stakes, but our approach needs to be the same, because you can't throw players off. It will just add different pressures and pressures that players won't have experienced. So we know what's at stake, but at the same time, we're just going to go play another game of rugby. It's a big game, but we've got a team full of big game players. And actually, if we just keep our approach as we have been, there might be a bit more detail looking at stuff, but that's more probably that leadership group really looking into the details of the opposition, knowing who's going to play when the teams come out, then we'll probably do a little bit more. But other than that, we're just getting excited about it. Like we trained last night at the Stoop, we had the lights on, the music on, we're in a semi-final and we need to celebrate that and just be excited about it and not allow what the outcome could be, ruin that build up and ruin the opportunity that we have on Sunday.
And you'll be essential to that. But it's come at a good time in terms of some of your players who really took the league, the back end of last year's league season by storm. A couple of young back rowers, Mew and Brooks. They just come back from injury as well. So it's come as a good time, fairly clean bill of health.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams have had a roller coaster of players injured in and out. And we're coming to the point where we've got everyone's available for selection. So that gives us great depth, allows for certain combinations to happen. And, for Gerard and the team, for them to be able to select from players who have been playing really well and in form, and then also players who have been injured over the season and back in. This is the time that you need your players fit. And so we're in a good position and just mega excited.
I like this.
Can I just say this feels really weird?
Yeah, I was going to say
on this podcast.
Like quizzing Burf.
I know.
It's news night. WRP news night. I like it. I was on something during the Six Nations and Mo Hunt started asking me questions. I was like, I just froze. I just didn't know what to do. This is just bizarre. 10 years, 15 years of asking you questions, and now you're asking me. Anyway, we're going to carry on because we meant it to be like this, didn't we? Since we had a little plan. What I was going to say was, how do you make sure, or what can you do to make sure you turn up the way you did against Bristol rather than the way that you turn up / started against Loughborough?
I think for us, it's staying relaxed and not getting too caught up in the occasion. We're at our best when we've got good vibes going in the changing room. Everyone knows what's at stake and they know what's on their back. And, not that it's right, but the Loughborough game, we were all set that we were going to Exeter and going to have to play Exeter at Sandy Park. That was where we were at. And it's not that consciously we went into that game thinking this is a nothing game, but you naturally have that in the back of your psyche. So I think knowing what's coming, we know that we can't have a slow start. We know what Saracens can be like when they get steamrolling, that we don't want them to get their heads up, especially at home. They're calling out for a big crowd. I'm sure they're going to have a lot of their own home support there. And so we know that we have to start really fast. And how we've played against them in the past is when we start well and we keep that foot on the pedal, then that's when we're at our best. And we know exactly what we need to go and execute.
So you just talked about like a good start and how you do it. Is there any specific tactics that you're going to look to approach the game with, in terms of, obviously they've got some certain key areas, like we know how they play. They, like, if you discipline, kick the corner, they go for that, or they love a round the corner ball to their forwards. Like, have you got any specific tactics you're going in for this game with?
Yeah, I think obviously we'll naturally look at where we see their strengths. And as you just pointed out, their kick to the corner, their driving more when it gets going, it is a really strong set piece for them. But I think we'll just focus on us. And I know you two don't want that as an answer, but we generally think that that's the key. That's the key for us this weekend. If we keep some of their threats out, we need to make sure we mark in Marley Packer, because she can turn a game on the head. But other than that, if we play to our potential, then that's what matters to us. It's not necessarily tactically changing anything. It's about reaching what we can do, because we believe that we have the ability to beat them if we bring our best performance.
It's just brilliant, isn't it? If she was on the other side today, she's like, oh, the person come off the interview and go, oh, God, they were straight back, weren't they? Really media trained. And now she's on her own podcast and she's been completely media trained. Look, I'm with you. I think the start is crucial. A couple of years ago, Franklin's Gardens absolutely steamrolled. No chance of coming back in that second half. But you went toe-to-toe with them at Kingsholm in the last final. And, yeah, I think if you can physically match, then that mental side, Saracens start to just wane slightly. But it's fascinating. We will leave it there, Burf. Thank you so much for coming on and being our guest today.
Hold on. What's your predictions?
Oh, that's at the end of the show. So we're going to do that at the end of the show. That's in the running order. So what's your prediction?
Harlequins win.
Boom! There it is. And you'll have to listen to the rest to find out the predictions.
Yeah, I will. Oh, well, thanks for having me on.
It's weird, isn't it? Look, go well. We'll see you Sunday.
Yeah, see you guys.
Good luck. See you later.
Thank you.
Hello, you lovely people. I'm Shauna Brown, and you're listening to Women's Rugby Pod.
That was funny and weird being on with Burf. Very good to have her on her own podcast. But she just, I mean, I don't know whether it's right in front of her, but she slipped into media train mode very, very seamlessly, didn't she? Even on our own podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking when I asked the question, I wonder how she's gonna play that. But you've obviously done this a long time, Johnnie. And we know what we kind of get from sort of media people around the potential way we should approach questions. Does anyone give you more than just your straight back answer back at you? Have you had anyone that has gone into more in-depth tactics before a game?
I said, it's a very good question, Santa. Not a huge amount kind of nowadays. I think it's really important that the relationship you have with the person you're talking to, and the better that is, and the better kind of mood you can get them in, you're likely to get a little bit more, or possibly even a slip up. Your question is obviously important, but not massively. But I think you have to read between the lines. You know, Burf said there, didn't she? Identified Miley Packer straight away. We know they're going to come with the big forwards. We know that, but I don't think there's anything wrong in possibly adding that. You know what kind of team they are: Bottomman, Packer, Poppy, Cleo. Yeah, it's all quite vocal. It's they're not meaning to be in the face, but they are kind of those kind of players that they are in the face, not in a disrespectful way in any way, shape, or form. And it's going toe to toe with that. I think we alluded to that, and that's how you've got to sort of front up to Sarries. But no, there was a couple of little bits in there that if I was Saracens, I'd just have a wee look at. But I think you've got to play Sarries in the right areas, haven't you, for starters?
Yeah, keep them as far away from your try line as possible. And I know it sounds really, really stupid, but if you give any pens away, they're going to go to a corner and they've got a great driving maul, or they'll play the power game. So if they're in there and phase play, they'll just keep punching their forwards until eventually they've created space and either they've scored or they've gone out wide. So you know what's coming when they get into your 22. So you want them as far away as possible from that. So for me, Quins' kicking game has got to be on point, and their discipline. You get those two areas right, and the way we know Quins can play, if they're doing that in Sarri's half or deep into that end, they'll cause Saracens problems. And Saracens have a history of kind of imploding at times when they're under pressure, and for Saracens, they'll be wanting to stop that and doing exactly what we just said Quins don't want to do. They want to be in that 22. They want to be putting Quins under all sorts of pressure. So I think it's going to be a great game. I think it'll be really intriguing to see how both teams come out, what their tactics are going to be, and just then how they can implement them. it's all very well having the greatest tactical game, but if you don't come out and execute it, then like it doesn't really mean anything.
And again, I just go back to your, it seems like a base thing to play in the right areas. I couldn't agree with you more. Don't know how fit Lanny Tuima is. I think sort of would come into that midfield as another booting option. Ellie Kildonan and Winnow can kick as well. Alongside, they're preferring Emily Scott at 10, aren't they? Who's playing very, very well. So there are kicking options there. For me, that first 20 minutes, we said it with Burf there. Francis Gardens, 3 years ago now. Saracens were just unstoppable, whether by their own good play or Harlequins letting them. And then Harlequins said, no, we're not actually going to be a bit broken like that again at Kingsholm 2 years ago, even with Burf going off. And I said to people I was with, that's it, without the rudder. But actually it galvanised them even more to say, this is all against us and and the champions. I think that first 20 minutes is absolutely vital. Whatever tactics you've got, that first 20 minutes, and psychologically getting that first 20 minutes is absolutely crucial. How much of this battle is psychological then, Sunter? Is the champions, it's guys who know each other so well for country, and obviously know each other so well playing against each other. How much of this game is up in the top 3 inches?
I think at this stage in the season, I think a lot of it is. I think, they've both had great performances throughout the year. They've both had moments where like they haven't been at their best, but I think they're all like, they all know what they've got to do, and they'll have done it time and time, week after week. So actually, I think Sunday is about those top 2 inches and about how they show up, how the players either don't let the occasion get to them, or for those that do, then I think it is about how they get that mental side around. Like you say, it's going to be a physical encounter, especially probably more so the forwards. I think knowing some of the Saracens players and how they like to play, like you can't let them get into your head. If you let them get into your head, then that's your game taken away from, and then that ultimately allows an in for them. And I think, like you say, do Saracens, which I'm sure we'll get on to McKenna, like, do they think about that final from last year in terms of how they lost it? Do they think back to Franklin's Gardens, 3 years ago, when, like you say, they like railroaded Quins? So there's so much you can play on, which is why I think, like you say, it is a real mental, the psychology around it and how each coach decides to play it. It's really interesting. Final question before we get to Saracens representative. I was just going to ask, you asked the question about what you get from players. Again, I think we read between the lines where Burf's saying, we've got to concentrate on ourselves. And for me, that translates into, as you were saying, you can't let Marley Packer, Hannah Bottoman, these kind of players get into their heads, because as soon as you start thinking about them, obviously you're not thinking about what you should be thinking about. And they're very good at doing it, and they're very good at doing it in a white shirt. They're very good at doing it in a black and red shirt as well. So, again, we're just reading between the lines in the answer that Burf gave. So, do you know what? She gave loads out. That's disgraceful. Honestly, we're shouting to the press people. She shouldn't be allowed to do media. No, it was great to have Burf on to give the quarters perspective. Let's get a black and red perspective now from Saracens. It is a very warm welcome to Sarah McKenna, or as most people refer to you as McKenna, the social sec for the Red Roses, the fun organizer. How are you, McKenna, if I may?
Yep, I'm good, thank you. Just enjoying the weather at the moment. Some beautiful training outdoors. Feeling good, getting mixing shoulders with the team. Had some great sessions under our belt, so we're feeling good, and mood all round it is really good and high spirits.
Sunta and I are talking about sort of looking at this semi-final. We'll look back momentarily to then look forward, but a lot of players in a lot of really good place at the moment. A lot of the Bristol players will have come off with Wales and a really good Six Nations for them, successful. And then, of course, you're back to back times 1,000 whatever Grand Slam winners. You guys are in a really good place. How much is that feeding on from the Six Nations, and you guys bringing, those Red Roses, bringing that back in from that camp into the StoneX arena?
Yeah, so obviously we're really blessed to have many players who went off on international duty and bring back that knowledge and experience from the Six Nations back into camp, and people coming in, bouncing ideas off each other and getting some really good outcomes. And no doubt, probably that game against Exeter, some of the negative aspects of having so many internationals away during a period did come to the fore. So really important for us just over the last few weeks is just getting us all back onto task, getting the Saracens processes back into everyone's heads rather than probably the individual ones that they've been doing in their respective respective shirts for country.
Is that the biggest hurdle in the next few weeks? You've got the semi-final this weekend, a couple of weeks break before the final. Fingers crossed, I'm sure, from a black and red perspective. Is that the biggest task? Is getting everybody back on, as you say, onto the same page and getting this up here above the shoulders right?
I think the last 2 weeks probably were, certainly, but I think certainly in a place now where we can't be using that as a talking point. So we've had those 2 weeks together. We've had 2 great games to work on, look at, review. And now I think we are really, truly feeling like we are, like you said, back in the red and black shirt and playing the Saracens way that we want to.
So you mentioned the Exeter defeat there. It was a reasonably heavy one. And then last week bounced back against the Insects, 31-26. What pleased you about that performance that you particularly need to take into this weekend, Sarah? McKenna,
I think probably no drama. I think probably that it just felt like a Saracens performance, and hopefully it feeling like a Saracens performance isn't something that looks like a comeback, which we are excellent at, but that probably wasn't the characteristics that I'll should we do this again when the bells aren't ringing? Can you hear that?
I can hear the bells ringing. Yeah. It's slightly, there's a touch of sort of Notre Dame about the whole thing.
Yeah, there was, isn't there?
You're outside recording on your way from one of your Saracens roles to your playing and training. So you're outside there with a church next door. But
yeah,
sorry, you were saying.
So yeah, obviously a back and forth game. I think what impressed us the most was that togetherness that we showed coming out into the second half, really getting our style of rugby on the pitch. Probably obviously took too long to get to that stage, but then once we got there, we were rolling, and we felt like that team who enjoyed playing on the front foot, felt unstoppable at times. So of course there are things to review, once again, pull together, and then hopefully that we don't make those mistakes at the weekend, and we get the performance, the whole performance that we want.
Right, so how crucial then, it's a question spoken to Rachael Burford, who's our guest this week, about that start. The final back at Franklin's Gardens, was it 3 years ago now? There was only one team in it. You started with a bang. 40 minutes, the game's over. Last year, Harlequins matched you physically, and didn't get the start that possibly they got probably a better start in that game. They've been starting poorly. It's something they want to work on. You're just saying you're starting poorly. It's not just as simple a case as whoever starts the best is going to win, is it? But it might go a long way.
I mean that's it, isn't it? Is that no doubt there will be those moments still in people's heads, and hopefully people can, if it goes the wrong way, people can put that to bed quite quickly and then just think about how do we get back in the game? How do you get those positive moments and shift momentum? Because I think both teams enjoy playing on the front foot, enjoy playing with momentum, and then once they've got the wind up and their sails up, then they're away. Of course, you want to think that both teams have improved their mentality around that, and just in general in the women's game, you can see that games are closer and closer every week. There's more competition, therefore you get to experience those tough moments more and more often. So I think in general across the league, I think you'd like to think that teams have I suppose learn better ways to improve how to change that momentum. So I think in general probably all of us have improved. So you'd like to think that should that happen at the weekend to either team, you'd probably get the response you'd want.
I mean, from an outside perspective, you don't seem to like each other very much.
We don't like it.
No. Or is that just an absolute myth and you all sort of play along for us media
exactly.
fools?
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, great, brilliant. Well, no, I know
Mum can see.
when you go in the England camp, obviously you're great chums and all the rest of it, and that provides a huge launch pad to success you're having in the white shirt. But there must be a real rivalry. I mean, the cartel's been broken now with a new team going into the final. But I suppose here's the question: last year, obviously, they lifted the trophy. What have you learnt from that game? And has that been vocalised in the last week, 2 weeks, as to what you need to get right come Sunday to reach that final?
I think it hasn't specifically been Harlequins that's been the focus in terms of how we want to play this game. Of course, semi-final rugby does hit differently, so I think the focus probably be more to do with how do we approach a semi-final rather than how do you approach a Quins team in a semi-final. So I think, like I said, we've really massively focused on us and what we want to do. And like I said, pulling ourselves together and making sure that we stick to process. So how we do that in a semi-final, even more important, how we get that game on the park. But in terms of it being Harlequins, I don't think it's been spoken about much at all.
I love it. You and Burf, just brilliantly media trained. Ollie Shapley will be delighted. Laura will be delighted with you as well. With Harlequins, then just give me one little nugget then. What aspect of the game do you have to get right to beat Harlequins on Sunday at the StoneX?
I think the aspect of the game we have to get right, regardless of whether it's Harlequins or anyone, is our physicality. And being a Saracens team, that comes first and foremost. It's an absolute non-negotiable. Wearing that shirt and not being physical, it is not part of the plan. So if we can get that correct from the outset, turn up, get our shots in, carry hard, get on the front foot, then I think we'll be looking at being able to then put the rest of our game on the park. If we don't get that bit right, then we can't even take off. So first and foremost, 1 to 15, we'll be looking to be physical, confrontational, and really get stuck into the game, get our teeth into the game really early.
I love it. It's fascinating. Can't wait to see it unfold. I've watched a few of these battles over the years. The other semi-final, what do you reckon?
Oh, it's
really
hard
tight,
to call
isn't
it.
it?
It's hard to call it, isn't it? I think I would. I think you're probably better off asking someone else, having not played Bristol this year myself. So
you must have done your analysis.
I'm withdrawing myself from this one. No, I think it's going to be tight, isn't it? Obviously, the game last week, I think, does not bear any indication in terms of what we can expect this week and how they're going to play this weekend. So I think, no doubt, both teams kept an element in reserve. So I think it could go either way, yeah.
I think it's really tight. But a betting man doesn't go against the home team. So that's why I've stuck my colours anyway, purely on that. McKenna, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time. I know you're whizzing around today, so I'm so pleased we've caught you. Really appreciate your thoughts and all the very, very best on Sunday. We'll see you then.
Cool, nice fun. Thank you ever so much.
I'm Vicky Fleetwood and you're listening to the Women's Rugby Pod.
So just to catch you up with all the news it's been happening around the globe in the last 7 days. Let's just confirm that final round of Premier 15 game. DMP 0, Gloucester Hartbury 67, Exeter 29, Bristol 26, Loughborough Lightning 22, Harlequins 17, Saracens beat Wasps 31-26, we said, Worcester 51-26 over Sale, which meant the table finished as Saracens 1, Exeter 2, Bristol 3, Harlequins 4, Wasps 5, Gloucester 6, Loughborough Lightning 7, Worcester, Sale and DMP, which means, of course, that the semi-finals line up like this. A reminder, Saracens take on Harlequins at the StoneX 2 o'clock, and then at 4:30 at Sandy Park, Exeter Chiefs host Bristol Bears.
Aoife Doyle from Railway Union was awarded the Women's AIL Player of the Year. Women's Coach of the Year award was Ben Martin from Blackrock College.
Up in Scotland, Saturday marks the culmination of the season up there. Hill had Jordan Hill take on Watsonians at Murrayfield in the Sarah Beanie Cup final. There will also be a minute's applause to mark the contribution that Scotland international Siobhan Cadogan made to rugby in Scotland. From further afield, from a little time ago now, Australia lost to Japan. That's Japan's first win over a top-ranked 5 team. Huge turnaround from last time they played each other back in 2019 when the Wallaroos won 34-5 and 46-3. So well done, Japan. Japan also beating Fiji as well, 28-14, as they took the Tri-Series title.
In South Africa, the Premier Division round 4, the Golden Lions 10, Western Province 55, Border Ladies 31, Bowland Dames 15, Blue Bulls 21, the Sharks 13, Western Province and the Blue Bulls both still unbeaten from their first 3 games. This weekend, Bowland Dames host the Blue Bulls, Western Province take on the Border Ladies, while EP Quins travel to the Sharks.
Over in France, it was the quarterfinals of the Elite One at the weekend. Here are the results. Stade Toulousain 27, Lens 0. Stade Bordelais beat Grenoble by 18 points to 15. Reigning champions, ASM Rougenin, just slipped past Montpellier, 22 points to 20. And Blagnac put 42 points to 15 on AC Pobogny. The semi-final lineup, which are being played on Sunday the 29th of May, look like this. Stade Toulousain against Stade Bordelais and Blagnac against ASM Rougenin, with a final on the 4th of June. What a fashionable date.
Laura Sansu was named Player of the Tournament for the Six Nations 2022. Huge congratulations there. And she also announced this week that she is set to retire at the end of the World Cup, which I think came as a bit of a shock announcement. It's
a real shock, isn't it? A wonderful player. Yeah, nobody else is going to be Player of the Tournament, were they? And that's saying something when you've got performances like Marley Packer, Medusa 4 knocking around as well. But she's exceptional. It's difficult in France, isn't it? Sort of semi-professional kind of contracts. Yeah, it's either struggle your way through rugby or take the job option. But it's a real shame. But we will look forward to seeing her in the World Cup. Over in Spain, Division de Honor was also at the quarter-final stage at the weekend. El Salvador beat Burgos 20 points to 14. Santa Poana beat Barcelona 30 points to 23. OMPO Ordizia got past Cisneros Sevilla 26-20. Alcobendas against Complutense Cisneros seems to be postponed. I've looked at a few sites for that one. Can't find out why, but Santa Poana obviously waiting to meet them in the semi-finals. Any more information on that, we will bring it to you when we get it. It is a big, warm WRP welcome to Kate Zackery, USA International, Exeter Chiefs back rower as well. Good morning, Kate. How are you?
Good morning. Can't complain. Doing well. Happy to be here.
How's the week looked so far then? Obviously, we come off playing the team that you're then going to meet in the semi-finals. Just how utterly unique is that to start with?
I think it's unique and it's kind of strange, but on the other hand, you've got the most immediate analysis you could have ever dreamed of. So we have what we saw last weekend that we can analyze of them, of ourselves, and prep for this weekend. But biggest thing now is just kind of installing anything, small tweaks, adjustments, as well as just looking after bodies after such a long season.
What did you take from last week? I was just going to say, with the sort of back-to-back nature, actually, probably with USA and Canada, you've probably done back-to-back tests quite a bit, actually, haven't you? So are you drawing on that kind of experience?
Yeah, we've had a few bouts where we've played Canada twice. So even this last autumn's, we played them twice before coming over and playing here against England and Ireland. So, and then even a few years ago, we do a lot of Can-Ams with them. So a bit used to it myself. And again, like I said, there's perks. There's also kind of, you wish you didn't see some teams for a while, in all honesty, but other times there are benefits to it.
So is Bristol one of those teams then? You'd prefer not to see them? We're reading between the lines.
We'll find out on the weekend. Yeah, we'll find out Sunday.
What did you pick up from last weekend's victory? Yeah, a 3-point victory. It was a hell of a game. What did you pick up from that, without giving too much away, that you just need to polish, not just need to tweak, as you mentioned?
Yeah, I think Bristol brought their strongest side, and they've got so much experience in their internationals as well as their domestic players. I think a few things to obviously look out for, which I got included in, are some of the choke tackles, things like that. So, what kind of ball carriers are you putting in those close quarter areas, as well as just the standard, adjust your own body height so you don't get caught up high. With some of those, I think that will be a big adjustment for us, just to keep possession and also maintain speed of ball, because I think that's one of our strengths that we weren't able to highlight as much on the weekend, was just the pace we have if we can maintain multi-phase.
In terms, obviously, there's a few things that really that you've identified there. Like, from a mental, psychological point of view, how do you prepare for a team that you've just played last week, knowing how you're analysing them? They're probably doing the same to you, and the fact that it's a semi-final at the same time.
I think it's a great question. I mean, the mental side of it's just as important as all the analysis as well. And I think one mental mind shift change as well on campus last week was a bit kind of, we just have to win, right, to get that home semifinal, and we're making history. And that's not because we don't think we can get to top two, but it's that game really just meant we need this to win, because the big ticket item is the home semifinal. And I think that's where our eyes are set. So I think there's also a little bit of now that's win or lose type of game, which I think already elevates everybody's mental game a little bit, just because there's more in the line. But even with the analysis, I mean, I think we're pretty confident in our style of play. They can analyze us as much as they want. I think overall, we've got an extremely strong line out in scrum. I don't think there's much to change there. It's just execution and making sure on game day, we just execute at the fullest. I don't think it will matter what they really bring.
I think I saw it was Patricia Garcia. I know she likes to have these things pronounced properly. No, she's helped us out with Spanish translations through the season. She's been great. But she spoke about lots of players from all over the globe, and actually the fact that you're away from home, inverted commas. Actually, you probably don't have those family connections too close nearby, and actually, therefore, the rugby family, the Exeter Chiefs family, has become that much more important, and therefore we've seen this, as you quite rightly mentioned, this now historic moment that the club is at. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. I was actually just talking to someone about this the other day, where it's, the growth of rugby in the US and how it would be nice to be able to go home and play those games in front of friends and family, because it's nice just to run over to the sideline and hug a loved one or things like that. But on the flip side, this year having fans in stands, and as the season's gone on, you've seen more and more people in seats every single weekend. And that's why the last few weekends we've set new records for ourselves. And obviously I expect nothing less this weekend. But it's great. You go to the sideline, people are like, Kate, they say your name, they want to hug, and you're kind of like, I don't know who you are, but you're decked out in Chiefs kit. You're absolutely enthused to be here. So, all right, you're my new best friend. And it's always an amazing feeling, just being somewhere different, but also feeling like you're not far from home.
You speak about the fans and this intrinsic link which women's rugby seems to have with their fans, and it's a massive appeal, and long may it continue. But obviously down at Exeter Chiefs as well, they do love their rugby almost as much as they love their cider. How special is it for the club? We know the success of the men's side, and they've done it very organically and very earnestly. How exciting is it for the club to make history, to get to semi-final, but also that chance? You're 80 minutes away from getting Exeter Chiefs into a final. Just how special is that, and how much has been spoken about so far this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's one game at a time, so it's still staying very focused on this one. But to even get to that final game, I think it will mean everything for the players and the staff, because last year the whole team relocated except for a handful of local players. So whether it was someone relocating from just within England or relocating from another country, it was a big move at a time where there was so much uncertainty. So now being in our second year, being in the position we are in, and just with how much we have support wise. So it's not just our coaching staff, but the men's staff sometimes come by, they run a few skill specific sessions and things like that. So it really is a full club force going into the weekend, not even just the 50 players strong, but even, I feel like it's almost essentially like we have 15, 20 staff members also behind us with all of that. So I think it will mean a lot about how important it is to have those integrated kind of programs like we have. and continuing that on into future years, and just it's shared success at that point.
Kate, I could carry on talking to you for the rest of the morning and beyond the day, but I'm conscious it's semi-final week and we've got to get through all 4 teams. Thank you so much. I'd love to have you back on at some point if you would come back on and just talk a little bit more about your journey and just a sensational season that you personally have. But we will leave it and just wish you all the very best for Sunday.
Yeah, thank you. We can chat again when you've got better jokes. How about that?
You'll be waiting a long time, Kate. They're not going to get any better.
Yeah, and the second thoughts, we won't have you back on, Kate. Thank you very much. It's absolutely brilliant to have you on. And as I say, all the best on Sunday.
Go well, Kate.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Well, apart from being incredibly cheeky, and there's absolutely no way that we'd be having her back on again now. No, she was great, wasn't she? Apart from anything, just the way that she said semi-final.
I know. Yeah.
Love it. I'm going with it on Sunday. Semi-final rather than semi-final. It's brilliant. She kind of, in her answers, but also looking at her play this season, almost epitomises what the journey that Exeter's on. She's obviously come from the USA. She's a quality player, but has excelled in this league with good players around her playing with her, but also against her.
Yeah, no, she absolutely has. I think there's always been elements that, or times in games like internationally where you've seen what she's capable of doing, but I think more often than not that shone through every game she's played, whether that's in the centre or whether that's at back row. Like she's certainly been a standout player throughout the league this season. I think she's just got better and better as the season's gone on. So she's going into great form into this semi-final, as she calls it. And she's a type of player that galvanises the players around her. Her teammates. She's co-captain with Poppy Leach. So generally, when she's playing well, the rest of Exeter are playing well.
Come on then, let's switch to Bristol before we get Alisha Butchers on. Started brilliantly, didn't they? With a real bang. Often get it with a new coach and a couple of new players, and this really interesting dynamic that we wanted to sort of reflect on this season, but one reason or another it's not happened. But a coach and the mainstay of the team being married. Then they had a real dip, and the three of us, you Burf and I, spoke about that top 4, and you guys think, Bristol probably just about done enough now, but they've come back strongly in the last couple of weeks. Yeah,
they have. I think you're always gonna find that they got off to a great start, and it's how do you keep that momentum going? And other teams that maybe hadn't had the greatest starts found their way back into it. I think they had a few injuries, and people go away on international duty, so the squad stopped starting. But in all credit to them, they found a way back to the performances that we've known and saw at the start of the season, which is like credit to them. Like, I guess form is a really interesting one. When you have it and you're on it and it's great, when it dips, it's really hard to get that form back again. But they've done incredibly well to regroup, regalvanize themselves, and like nobody wins anything at the start of the season or the middle of the season. It all comes down to the back end. And whilst they didn't win against Exeter, I think they'll take an incredible amount from their performance and how they fought their way back into the game and how they turned it around, and obviously narrowly just lost that game in the end. And I'd imagine they'll be going into this semi-final, having never been in a semi-final in the Premier 15s before, with confidence in themselves, and they've got a squad full of quality and with the capability, which we saw at the beginning of the season. They beat Exeter at home. So yeah, I think obviously they've played them in the cup. when they both had probably very different sides out. So I think there's a lot for them to draw on to take into the semi-final. I think it's going to be a really enthralling game. I think I hope that if the matches they played this season like live up to it, I think we could have a great game down at Sandy Park.
I mean, you look through the two team sheets. I mean, they're both absolutely littered with international stars. No Jazz Joyce. You replace that with Grace Compton, who's just as quick. Probably don't know the power yet of Jazz Joyce. You got Kaylee Powell in there, Courtney Knight, Amber Reid against Cantrona. It just throughout the piece, the back rows, Butchers, Johns, Marston against Zackery, Johnson, Leach. It's just absolutely brilliant across the two squads. On paper, which team are you wanting to have to win the semi-final?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a real tough one.
It's kind of basically a prediction question, isn't it? Really,
it is a prediction question. It is a prediction question straight around it. I think it'll be close. Buy myself some more time here. I've just got a funny feeling Bristol might come and edge it.
Do you?
Yeah, I think from last week, you've probably got a bit more to go, right? Let's go and prove a point, having lost at semi-final. Knowing some of they've got some big time players in that group. You look at your likes of your Burners, your Abby Wards. You've got Amber Reid, like Kira Bevan at 9. You've got like that spine as a team that is used to playing in big games. And I think they'll be right up for it. And I think they've obviously played them at the start of the season and known they can beat them. I know that the games that they've played in like the Cup and away from home, they haven't. But I think they'll know within it. And I think, yeah, I don't know. I've just got a feeling that they'll want to turn last week's result round. So it might not been a bad thing losing to them. But I think it'll be close.
I agree. It's going to be close. On paper, you know, the Ireland captain is on the Exeter bench. The Wales captain, this last week, the Wales captain is on the Bristol bench. So on paper, I think across the 23, Bristol are probably slight favourites, and there's obviously motivation to bounce back from last week. For me, I think there's just something about Exeter, and I just think there's a resolve there. You know, Susie Appley is a really nuggety, competitive person underneath the exterior. And I don't know. I'm not saying that Bristol aren't, of course, but I'm going to say Exeter win. You're going to say Bristol win, but close.
Yeah.
Well, let's get the Bristol perspective now. Here's Alisha Butchers.
I'm Kira Devon, and you're listening to the Women's Rugby Pod.
A very warm welcome to one of the standout players of the Six Nations, but in full Bristol Bears colours today. Alisha Butchers, good morning to you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, we're good, thank you. We're doing a whistle-stop tour around all 4 clubs. It's fascinating, isn't it? This weekend. Let's dive straight into it. A team that you played last weekend, you're now going to play this weekend. That's bizarre in itself. And then on top of all of that, you're making history for the club by getting to the first semi-final. Where exactly are the emotions right now on this sort of Thursday morning?
I think we're all just really excited. I think, like you said, it's kind of an unusual situation that we get the chance to play Exeter again, but it also gives us the opportunity to kind of review the game and give it another go, really. So yeah, we're super excited and we can't wait to get to Sunday and hopefully put in a performance.
Without giving away too much and your analyst's hard work and what have you, what just little areas have you identified that you might just need to get a little bit better, a little bit tighter, a little bit more polish on for Sunday, so you do come away the right side of the result?
We recognise that Exeter are a very physical team, and they probably got game line a little bit more than we expected or wanted them to last Saturday. So for us, I think it's just bringing a bit more physical edge to our performance, and not allowing them to get as fast ball as they did get against us on Saturday.
Oh, you've mentioned it already, Alisha, about semi-final and being excited. Like, how much has that been talked about this week? How much has it been talked about, obviously, going back down to Sandy Park? Obviously, just talk to us a bit about the whole semi-final situation.
It has been talked about quite a lot, I'll be honest. It was one of our goals heading into the season to try and claim a semi-final spot, which I've never been a part of before. So to be able to say that I'm playing in the semi-final is pretty cool, and it was a new experience for me. But we hold ourselves accountable and understand the importance of this weekend. We've trained really hard, and it's going to be a huge occasion and something that a lot of players wouldn't have experienced before. So I think it's just trying to guide a lot of people through it, and with all the attention that we're getting, the crowd that Sandy Park always has an amazing crowd anyway. So we're really looking forward to it, and we're excited to be a part of a semi-final in such an amazing league. Well, probably the best league in the world, isn't it? So yeah, super excited.
How do you manage that excitement with the focus of like turning up and playing? Like, you've obviously identified like the things that you want to work on from last week. How do you balance that excitement from like still the focus of playing?
Yeah, it can be quite challenging sometimes to stay focused 100% of the time when you've got such a big event coming up. But we've trained really hard this week, and we spoke a lot about leaving everything on the field in terms of training, so we don't leave any stone unturned going into the weekend. And I believe we've done that this week. So we're in the best position possible to be able to perform on the weekend. I think it's important that we do control our, levels in terms of being able to flip the switch on the day, in terms of big games and that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're excited, but we're also focused, and we know our roles very well going into the weekend, which is super important.
It absolutely is. Yeah, I'd love to be a fly on the wall. There's some emotional people there, and some people who are very emotive as well. You would know very well. Your Welsh captain, my captain. Dave Ward's an emotional chap. Wears his heart on his sleeve. I'd love to be a fly on the wall just before kickoff. But Alisha, just move away from the team just for a moment. And you personally, outstanding in the Six Nations. You must be really, really enjoying your rugby at the moment to be putting out the performances you are. You mentioned, and it's coming across really, really clearly, the passion for playing for Bristol. But club and country, you seem to be in a really, really good place at the moment.
Yeah, I'm probably enjoying my rugby the most I've had for a long time. And that's probably come down to the fact that I can put all my time into it now, and really focus on making myself the best that I can be. I'm really enjoying myself, and I think that's when I play my best, is when I'm relaxed, have time, and really focus on the task at hand. So I think that's been the main change for me throughout this season and Six Nations as well.
And silly old question, but just how confident are you as a squad of going down to Sandy Park and righting the wrongs from last weekend, getting to your first ever final?
Yeah, we're feeling really confident, but we also realise that we've got a task ahead of us. We understand the threats that Exeter have, but overall we're confident in our processes and our game plan, and we're extremely confident that we can go and implement them on the weekend as well.
Alisha, we will stop it there. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on the WRP. We wish you all the very, very best for the semi-final, and yes, go and enjoy it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great to have Alisha on. She speaks very passionately. It's rugby and she's Welsh. We could probably possibly give that as a given, but you could see the joy in talking about the team there, and that's not something you can particularly hide. clearly Bristol are in a really good place, and they've got some really, really good Welsh players there, haven't they? The likes of Kira Bevan, Joan Lillycrap, Alisha there, Anna Johns, players who've seen the dark side of Wales and now back on the contracts and playing some good stuff, but also playing some really good club stuff as well. They're a bit of a crest of a wave. And can Bristol ride on that wave?
You'd like to think so. That if you're Dave Ward, you're probably pulling on all of that. You're probably pulling on like the Six Nations the Welsh did have. Like they've had the best Six Nations for like a long, long time. And the players that played well for Wales are a lot of his players. So, and obviously they've done a great job for Bristol. And it's like, actually, how do we harness that, bring it into Bristol? You take the England girls who have been away with England and done like brilliantly well, winning a Six Nations. Like they come back full of confidence. And Alisha probably is showing exactly what every other Bristol player is thinking and feeling right now, which is a great place to be in. And if they can get that bit of the excitement, the energy, the form that individually the players have been in, and bring it collectively, if Dave Ward can do that, that's a very strong proposition Bristol can go down to Sandy Park with on Sunday. And they put that and perform, then we've seen it this year. They have had one of the best teams in the league, and they've played and beaten the best sides up there. And if they can bring everything together, like I've said earlier, I think they can go and win it, but they've got to bring that excitement, but with a focus and the game plan to go and beat Exeter.
Stick to their processes, and they're going to be mistakes. People are going to drop balls and whatever. It's an offloading sort of power runners game, isn't it? And if they can keep trusting each other and their own skills and themselves and keep playing that way, then who knows? It is going to be really tight. You've gone Bristol, I've gone Exeter, mainly just to be controversial, but a leopard doesn't change its spots. What about the other one then, Sunter? We didn't do it while Burf was on just to tease her. We are terrible, aren't we? Come on. The final is going to be Bristol taking on
Harlequins.
Wow. There you are. Why?
Yeah, I think if they play like they played against Bristol 2 weeks ago, I think if they can find that game, I think it'll be tough. I think Saracens will be Saracens and throw everything at them. But I think if Bristol can find that cutting edge like they did, I think Quins could get it. I think like just looking at some of the player for player, like especially Quins back three, if they unleash their back three, it could be dangerous. I think it'll be really close. But yeah, I think Quins might edge it. If Quins get the physicality bit right and they manage the Saracens pack, then I think it'll be a Quins day.
Chuck in ifs. You can't have I predict if.
I've gone for it, but I'm just saying if they manage that bit, I think it could be Quins. If they don't, then I think Saracens would get it. So I'm saying that's the crucial area, especially some of the key forwards from Saracens. You're looking at your Marnie Packers, your Hannah Bottomans, your Poppy Cleals. Like if they can control them, your May Campbells.
Yeah, I don't disagree out wide. I think Quins probably do have the edge. I just Quins beat Saracens back in December at Saracens, and then of course Saracens beat Quins at Quins. That was in February. Quins last year's final beat them as well. 17-all draw as well. We know full well it's going to be tight. For me, Quins are outstanding last final. Saracens didn't help themselves, but for me, Quins were able to lean on an Abby Ward and a Leanne Riley and those kind of players. Now, Rose and Saracens, Sarah Bonner in the second row for Quins, excellent players. That leadership, that sort of solidity that Abby Ward brings, not entirely sure. Don't know them probably well enough. Scrum half Leanne Riley, different with Packer or Swords there. I think for that reason, and I think Sarries really don't like losing in finals, and I think that we'll be spurred on by that loss 2 years ago. And if anybody's an unstoppable force at the moment in the game of rugby union, it is Marley Packer. So I'm not betting against her.
Yeah.
I'm telling her, and you're brave, and so there we go. You are going for a Bristol Quins final, and I am going for an Exeter Saracens final. And I say Burf will never speak to me again, but I've predicted against Quins many a time, and she's always spoken to me, so all good. There we go then. There's a full preview of the semi-finals, all wrapped up. Your news from around the world as well. Sunta, back to the boxes. Sorry, you can't put it off anymore. Back to the boxes. Have you got one of those special little knives which you open the boxes with?
No.
Just like on a keyring, a tool belt.
Oh no, maybe I need to invest in one of those as well.
I'd stick to just the tea then, is it?
Yeah. Maybe I'll do a better job at that.
Opening packs of rich tea.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Look, well, all the best with the unpacking. Just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, of those semi-finals again. Saracens against Harlequins, the StoneX Stadium, 2 o'clock. Then at 4:30 at Stanley Park, Exeter take on Bristol Bears. Continue supporting women's rugby. The best way you can do that is to get yourself down to those grounds if you can. They will be great occasions. All 4 teams utterly littered with international stars, and it's winner takes all. And some pretty special things happen in semi-finals. So get yourselves down. If you can't, then you can watch on BT Sport, BBC iPlayer, and England.com at those appropriate times. Must just finish out with a little shout out. Our very own little rugby nut just got into the Surrey County squad. So for Burf, Sunta, myself, and everyone here at WRP, huge congratulations, rugby nut. That's great news from her. So we'll see you at the weekend, I think.
Yeah, hopefully.
One of us, I think we might be both at Saracens, but we're both certainly working on these semi-finals in various broadcast forms and not. So we will see you then, Sunta. Have a box unpacking till then.